finna get your ass the game, man. You know I break it down. Come on, man, you know it's Bain.
Yo, what's good, everybody? Welcome back to Bain Break It Down Forex. It's your boy Big Bain and this thing. And you guys guessed it, another week, another opportunity for us to make some money in the Forex market. So let's get right to it. All right, boom, over on the dollar, guys. So we broke, well, we're in a downtrend. All right, that's the main thing. But we made a nice retracement all last week. And, from probably, where was it? Here it's Sunday, right? We pushed down, like I mentioned, and then we came to, complete the retracement. So now on the dollar, we're sitting at a supply level, but we broke the previous day's high. All right. So that was Thursday's, right? We broke Thursday high and we came higher. So I do expect the dollar to continue pushing higher, probably to this fair value gap, maybe to the supply area before we get the drop. All right, so basically I'm bullish on the dollar, right, until it gets to these areas, and then from there I'll be bearish on the dollar. So right out the gate, I do expect, if we kind of go to the 1 hour time frame, you guys will see. All right, here's a tiny little fair value gap sitting right here, which the dollar may push down to before it begins that continuation on the way up. All right, so again, liquidity sitting behind this previous week high, right? But we also have imbalance with the fair value gap in our supply area. So all of this is it's a magnet for price, right? Price wants to gravitate to that excuse me, mainly to, again, sweep the liquidity. That may or may not happen, right? We may just get to these areas like I mentioned and then drop, but I'll be looking for, all of those scenarios starting this week. All right, so bullish on the dollar initially, but once we get up into one of these areas, we're definitely going to turn around and take out the liquidity of this swing low. All right, so be on the watch out for that, because you can frame your trading opportunities based on that fact. Again, guys, giving you gems. All right, it's just all about you guys being patient and then taking advantage of when you see your setup ready to go. All right, bullish on the dollar. Moving over to the JPY. All right, so shout out to my boy Martez. He got me about 150 to maybe 200 pips on AJ last week as we bought it, because he saw the JPY falling, and man, did it fall. All right, so with that, right, we basically broke previous week's low here where we got our break of structure. All right, and then we also broke Thursday's low, right? So all of that push came on Friday, right, where we pushed massively down on the JPY and took out those lows. So eventually we will get some sort of retracement back up, right, to probably the supply area, and maybe a reversal to go and take out this swing high and then start to continue up. If we look at this on a higher time frame, like the weekly, all right, the JPY has been tanking, right, and we just took out this previous this low way back in July of 2024. So because of that, guys, right, we definitely are probably going to head a little bit lower, right, on the JPY before we start any retracement back up to the upside. So coming back down, all right, I do see price just kind of doing a little bit more dipping, right? We haven't even gotten a V shape to complete our low, so we're not even ready to retrace at all on the JPY. So there's still more falling for the JPY to do before we potentially begin that retracement back up to these points of interest. All right, so plenty of points of interest with this, right? The FEG, the break of structure, the previous day low, and the supply area. All right, so once we do happen to get that V shape, right, if we get some sort of change of character where we break above a little high, right, and then we respect this as a low, right, we broke the high but respecting it as a low, then we'll start to go to these key areas in which my team will be selling the J's, right? So we bought the AJ right on Thursday, Friday, but we'll be looking to sell AJ sometime this week, if the JPY gives us some sort of indication that it's ready to retrace back to the upside. All right, so I'm still bearish on the JPY for now, right? So that means our J's are still going to probably push up a little bit more coming into the beginning of the week, but maybe possibly in the middle of the week we'll start to get that retracement, and we're going to get a major drop on the J's at that point. So guys, if you trade GJ, right, that's the big dog, right, you need to be looking for your sell opportunity somewhere in the middle of the week. It may come earlier than that, but let the charts tell you, what it's going to be. All right, but bearish on the JPY, and then eventually I will be looking for it to turn bullish. All right, moving over to odd dollar. All right, so again, I'm expecting the dollar to fall, right? I just wanted to go, I see the retracement of it going up a little bit more into those key areas and then falling. So as it goes up, right, the odd dollar will push down, right? Most likely try to take out this swing low. So maybe you want to put our position right here, giving us a little bit of wiggle room behind this swing low, right? So that we can survive any kind of liquidity sweep. All right. But this is a very good position, right? With the 1 and 9, risking only 10 pips, right? We can even stretch this out a little bit, get behind this wick, right? Because it's a dirty game. All right, so that's 23 pips, and we still have a 1 to 3, making about 87 pips to the upside, right? I'm bullish on the odd dollar. All right, over to euro dollar, same exact thing. As the dollar pushes us up, right, I expect the euro to push down a little bit more. We have a nice fair value gap sitting here, so maybe I want to extend, right, this to behind the weekly low. So maybe I'll even do something like this where we get in the middle of the fair value gap, but this is pretty hefty on the stop loss, so I really kind of prefer something like this. All right, that's only 23 pips on the stop loss, and when we look at this, right, on the take profit, we're getting 136 pips. That's a 1 to almost 6 risk to reward. So again, guys, as the week begins, euro dollar most likely will push down, right, to this imbalance, right, start to get some rejection, and then as the dollar begins to fall, euro dollar will absolutely push up, taking out this high where there's liquidity. All right, so bullish on the euro dollar. All right, over to pound dollar, same exact thing. All right, so I'm expecting a push down to this level of demand, possibly taking out the previous week's low. All right, so I'm preparing for that as well. So I'll do one of these numbers, right, 40 pips, right, pretty good. And then there's a huge fair value gap here. So GU is going to be a little bit more tricky because there's so much more imbalance to the downside that it may push further down before it starts to go up. And that's just going to be, one of those situations where we have to see how price reacts at these levels, right, to determine if we get any indication to go ahead and take that buy. So you don't just take it blindly, right? You wait till it gets here, you see if it respects it, meaning candles aren't closing below, right, either here or there, right, with the body of the candle. If you're getting wicks, right, especially long wicks, that's very, very good, especially if the candle closes with a very long wick. That is extremely good. You see how this closed with that extremely long wick, and what did you get right after? Kaboom, massive push to the downside. We're looking for that in reverse, right? We're looking for price to come down here, start rejecting with candles, wicks below the candle like this, right? And if we get that and we get body candles to close back above, you definitely want to take that buying opportunity to go and get to these highs where there's plenty of liquidity sitting. All right, this is 138 pips on GU, and I'm bullish. All right, moving over to New Zealand dollar. All right, so I was bearish last week. We did make a little bit of a drop, and I think we're still going to get more of a drop, right, possibly to this demand area. So I'm going to go ahead and aim for that, right, and then once again give myself a little wiggle room right about there. It's only 29 pips. That's pretty good, right? And you can see there's more imbalance down here, but we gotta, we kind of got to go with the flow, right? We got a nice push up, we got a retracement that would almost be like 100% retracement by the time it gets here. So thinking about price getting all the way down here, it's not likely, right? It's not highly likely, let's put it that way, right? News can change all of that, but ultimately we just kind of want to go with what's right in front of us. Okay, so right out the gate, you know, dollar pushes up, New Zealand dollar is going to push down, and I'm looking for that same sort of thing as GU, right? Rejection, right, with the wicks candle closing above these areas on the higher time frames, right? The 4 hour, the 1 hour, or anything above the 1 hour, really. If we get that, right, I'll be looking to buy New Zealand dollar, getting it all the way to this high for 280 pips to the upside, guys. All right, I was excited about New Zealand dollar last week, and I did, you know, get a good push, right? So here was Monday, right? In all sense, right, we did get 60 pips out of that, but we may, you know, still from selling it last week, we may get down to here, which is about 80 pips. All right, so that's still good, but I was thinking that it was going to go a little further, but it was just taking its poor sweet time. Plus, this is a falling channel. I'll just draw it out for you guys so you can see. Some of you guys have the eye, right, and you saw it already, but there it is, right? Your falling channel, all right, which by definition is a bullish reversal pattern. All right, so you have that coming into major areas of demand, right? And this is already the retracement. Okay, so most likely just sweeping the lows or mitigating demand and then taking off to the upside. All right, so again, New Zealand dollar, right, 280 pips on the table. Try not to miss out. All right, bullish. Okay, dollar CAD. All right, so again, I said the dollar is going to rise, right, and then fall. So I'm expecting a push up to here and then getting that drop. Now we may get it a little higher. We may even possibly take out this swing high, because again, you can see the liquidity, right, all packed up in this particular area. All right, so there's a possibility we get some kind of wick just like this, right? We go like this, right? We start to push up, right, do a little dance, and then we go boop, and then shoot right back down, right? We can get that on the dollar CAD, you know, starting out the week, and then plus there's more imbalance to this upside, so it's just again kind of gravitating, you know, up in that area. Now, not sure exactly, you know, how far, but you know, this is what we use Fibonacci for. Okay, and Fibonacci says, hey buddy, you know, we're getting right here before we get a possible drop, and I'm already positioned for that. I just need to extend this, right, to get 167 pips when the dollar actually begins to fall, risking just about 13 pips. Maybe I can place it behind here, right? That's 65. I don't typically like to go higher than 50, but who knows? Maybe I'll reposition myself like this, right? And that'll give me what I want, right, in terms of risk to reward, a 1 to 4, right? 45 pips for 187 is music to my ears. So something in this realm is very, very possible. All right, so look out for dollar CAD to initially push up and then completely drop 487 pips to the downside. All right, moving over to dollar CHF, same exact thing, right, as the dollar CAD. I'm expecting a push up, right, out of this consolidation. Who knows, we may sweep the low first and then push up and do that, but the way I see it is that we're already pushed down, right, and we've engineered this liquidity, so this is going to get got later, right? So what needs to get got first is, you know, the supply or the liquidity sitting at the top of this consolidation. So as the week begins, again, I'm looking for price to push up to the supply area, reject it, and then fall, right? That's a risk to reward of 1 to almost 7, only 10 pips for 70 pips. But for some reason, if we kind of get higher than that, right, then I'll be looking to sell it from this supply area. Again, a risk to reward of almost 1 to 8. But this one is better as I'm only risking 16 pips to make 123. All right, guys. So bullish initially, right, on dollar CHF, but mainly looking for the selling opportunities, which will most likely come in the middle of the week, which I believe we might have GDP news on Wednesday, which is either right before Christmas or Christmas, one of those days, right? So just look out for that, and happy holidays to everyone too, by the way. All right, but bullish and then bearish on dollar CHF. right? Dollar JPY. So again, the J's, all right, and my team caught this, right? We got into a buy right here, and price absolutely smacked our TP, which was near this high. So we made about 200 pips off of UJ. All right, and again, we have a bit of a swing high to the left where, like I mentioned, the JPY is going to continue to fall, or for now it looks that way. So I expect us to take out the high of the dollar JPY, and then from there we'll most likely start to look for that retracement back down to the area that we broke, maybe this imbalance and maybe this demand area. But until then, UJ is still bullish, but like I said, the dollar is looking to turn bearish. So guys, when it does, right, if you sell UJ, you have a good opportunity of potentially making about another 250 pips as it retraces back to these key points of interest. All right, so bullish on UJ initially, but I'm looking for that drop on UJ as well as the other J's when the time comes, when price shows us that is ready to drop. So again, also another little swing point to the left over here. So as we can take out this one, we can take out this one as well. So we really got to be careful just trying to sell the JPY right out the gate, because there's plenty of points of interest to the left that we can potentially get to before we get the drop. All right, so again, bullish for now until price shows us it's ready to drop. All right, moving over to pound odd. All right, we got a great opportunity to buy the pound odd right now. We got a nice change of character, right? We pushed up, made our retracement to the same area that we broke, right? Same pattern over and over again, guys. Eventually you guys will peep it and then start to take advantage of it. All right, we swept the low from Thursday, tapped right into demand, filling that imbalance, and then here is that type of candle that I was talking about previously, where you got a massive wick right below the candle. Okay, and that's showing you major rejection of sellers. All right, so when you see that, especially when it checks out for things that you need, we got the break, right? We got the new high, we got the retracement, and then we got the mitigation with the sweep. So liquidity sweep, everything's checked off. We got a bullish candle forming, guys. A nice buying opportunity on pound odd for 235 pips, possibly higher, as we just start out the week. I expect this to just take off. So I'm bullish on pound odd. Very good setup. All right, pound CAD, same deal, right? So in this consolidation, guys, we did break below the previous week's low, right? So that does mean that we want to go lower, but we have a lot of imbalance, right, to fill before we sweep or before we start to fall. So what's most likely going to happen, especially with this candlestick pattern, this is a morning star, all right, and I'm sure most of you guys are familiar with this now, right? But that is a bullish candlestick pattern. So buying it right here with just a stop of 38 pips, looking to make 170, this is where price most likely will open up this week, right? Taking out the previous day high of Thursday, right? And just pushing up to fill this imbalance and mitigate the supply. Now, after that, that's where we're going to get the huge drop back to the downside to take out the previous week's low. All right, so again, bullish initially on pound CAD, 170 pips, right, guys? You can make some good money right before Christmas, because these pairs usually don't have to wait around on economic news for the dollar to get jiggy. They do numbers on a constant basis. Now, all of this clearly was, just what you call gathering liquidity on both sides. So this took a while, right? From last week or a week ago, maybe Monday, all the way till this past Friday, we consolidated. But that just means once we get about a consolidation, we're going to get big moves. That's why it's 170 pips on the table, and you guessed it, once it gets here, it's another 170 to probably 200 going to the downside. All right, but for now, bullish on pound CAD. All right, moving over to pound CHF. Very beautiful setup, guys. All right, So we swept liquidity on the previous week low, and I believe because we have these equal lows and we really didn't tap into demand too deep, we're going to sweep the previous day low, right? Get into this demand, and then we're going to take off 453 pips on pound CHF. The setup is picture perfect. All right, so I'm bullish on that. All right, over to pound JPY. You guys know the deal with the JPY, and again, this is one of traders' favorites. Okay, so again, pound JPY, I still see it pushing up even more. I don't know if we're going to get this high, but that is the next swing point. When we kind of look left, all right, got to get a little higher. Wow, way over there. All right, whoop, there it is. Okay, but I can see it reaching there. Okay, and if it does, then you still have an opportunity to kind of catch whatever you can getting up to that area. But just know, if we happen to create a high, okay, meaning we push up and then we push down and we get that V shape, right? We definitely want to start looking for potential selling opportunities back to the area that we broke, all right, or this demand area, even possibly sweeping, right, the previous week's low, maybe even the previous week's high. All it's all going to depend on how price action plays out as we start the week. All right, but for now, GJ is still very bullish. All right, so moving over to New Zealand dollar. All right, I'm sorry, pound New Zealand. All right, and here we've definitely broke the previous day high, right? We also broke the previous week high, so we're very, very bullish on pound New Zealand. I do expect us to just tap into this demand and then take off to the upside for 320 or 32 pips on pound New Zealand. I'm bullish, guys. Very good setup. Try to take it. All right, silver. All right, silver's been going higher and higher and higher, as well as gold, but we did manage to make some money on this pullback, right? So shout out to the squad. But I was expecting it to get a little lower, but it was like, nah, this is good enough. Times are uncertain and these are safe havens, so it pushed right back up. So we broke the weekly high, we broke the daily high, which means we are going to go higher. But typically before you go higher, guys, and this is just a little tip that hopefully you guys keep with you, anytime you expect price to go high, it's going to go lower first, and vice versa. Anytime you expect price to go down, it's going to go higher first. All right, so if you keep that in mind, you won't just buy high and you won't just sell low, right? That's the name of the game. We will buy low and we will sell high, right? So if you incorporate that, I promise you, you will see a major difference. So with that being said, I'm looking for silver to initially drop, filling this imbalance, right? And then we'll take off to where Fibonacci says we should get to. All right, so I'll be bullish with a position there. Now, if silver just happens to drop a little bit more because we have huge imbalance here, and this is some, it's this form of liquidity at a swing low, right? We can come down and take out that swing low, tap into demand where I'll have my next silver position. Notice on this one, right? I'm not risking as much. As a matter of fact, I need to put it like this. Okay, I'm risking very, very little. Very little to make a lot, right? So if I happen to lose that, right, pebbles in the ocean, right, and then price keeps dropping, well, guess what? When it gets here now, again, I'm only risking a little, but I'm making a whole lot as we get that shot back up on silver. So this is definitely one of the plays I'm looking forward to taking advantage of. All right, bullish on silver. And here we go on gold, right? So gold swept a previous high, right? So you can see very massive wick here with the rejection of buyers. Okay, so as the dollar is looking bullish, right, gold is starting to give us a little bit of a retracement, but here we're sitting at a nice little fair value gap, all right, to the upside. So we may just start to push up and continue to the upside, taking out this swing high, right, this previous day high. Now, if the dollar, if gold just kind of still falls, maybe we'll be going to take out liquidity here and possibly tap into this demand. So that's where a short position is on right now for that possibility. All right, but ultimately you do want to be looking for your buying opportunity when you get it. All right, when you get it, that's the one that's more than likely gonna pay huge, right? But there is potential for gold to drop to this demand, potentially even to this demand, right? That's a 116 point move, which is over 1,000 pips on gold. But we don't need to be greedy, right? We can take this, which is 630 pips on gold, all right, just right out the gate. As again, I expect dollar to push up, so typically gold will push down, all right? But if we don't get that and we respect this fair value gap, then maybe you can take a long position, stop right below the fair value gap, and then aim for that high, and it'll possibly go higher than that. All right, but I don't see that right out the gate just for now, because we got a nice sweep of this previous high, and typically we'll start to take out liquidity to the downside. But again, it's still very mixed at the moment, so don't just sell it right away, right? See if we can break below the fair value gap and then sell it, aiming to these particular points of interest. All right, so bearish right now on gold, but definitely looking to take advantage of any bullish opportunities that come about. All right, over to natural gas, and looks like we got a nice double bottom. All right, so be very careful of price potentially sweeping that double bottom and then rising. All right, sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't, but more often than not, you just want to be prepared for it. That way you don't just get got and then it goes in your favor. All right, so with the way that it looks right now, right, I'm definitely looking to buy natural gas up into the supply area for a risk to reward of almost 1 to 3, which we can make it. Boom. All right, there it is. Very nice buy position on natural gas. I am bullish. Okay, moving over to crude oil, and crude oil is a little mixed, but you can see that we've kind of started to give a change of character to the upside. All right, so this weekly high here, and then here was the previous week's low where we got the break, but we kept falling. All right, so now pushing up, we just got above this high, so that was our change, and here was the retracement to that change, and now we're starting to push up. So I do believe we're going to go finally higher on oil, but here's the stop, here's the swing, and then here's more stops. So which will we get all of this within the week? We don't really know, but I can tell you that since we took out the weekly low, the last thing or the next thing to go and take out would be that weekly high. All right, so for that fact, I am bullish on oil, and this is about a 4-point move that'll get you 400 pips on oil, and oil pays big time. All right, every dollar move is 100 pips. So again, an easy 400 or 100, 200, 300 pip move on oil. All right, bullish. All right, indices, right, big dogs. All right, this is SPY, and for the most part we broke the high, so that is expected for SPY to continue rising. But remember what I told you, before it rises it typically will fall, right? So getting that break, we'll probably get that retest, and there's a huge fair value gap sitting right above demand, so price most likely will drop, all right, as the dollar rises, right? And then once we get here, we'll start to push up some more, looking to take out swing points that are to the upside. Especially with the dollar falling, you'll get a major push up on SPY from this demand area. All right, and you'll be looking to make, let's see, okay, about 130 points on SPY. That is major. All right, major. So again, this week is the setups are lining up for you to make a bag potentially before Christmas, and who knows, even if you make it on Thursday or Friday, that's still pretty good. All right, so don't sleep, guys, on your setups this week, because they are very, very good, all right, for making some money. All right, so bullish on SPY after we see the retracement to demand. I'm looking for price to push up. All right, on NAS. Okay, I don't know why I don't have NAS marked, but let me take you guys, on a little ride here on how I do mark things up, so you guys can take a look. Right, I'm looking at this previous week high. All right, and then I'm also looking at the previous week's low, marking those out. All right, and what I can see basically is that we did not displace below the previous week low, so that tells me we're bullish, right? Or potentially, going to rise, right? And you can see the wick, which I talked about a lot today, in terms of it being rejection of sellers. So if you're getting rejection of sellers, that means when the sellers push it all the way down, the bulls were like, nah, get up out of here, right? And they pushed it right back up, and then it closed as a hammer candle. So this is very keen on telling you that NAS most likely wants to push up, and if it's going to push up, where's those areas that it's likely going to gravitate to? And you guessed it, right? Swing highs and liquidity areas, right? This would be a swing high, the previous week high. So I can expect price to push up to there. Really, it can just get to, the high of this candle. But if we're looking for those major areas, it'll be this swing high, and then again, this swing high up here. So now I have that weekly marked out. Now I'll go to the daily. All right. And I'll mark out the high and the low of the previous day. Right. So there's that daily high. And boom, there is that daily low. All right, guys, I'm giving you the game, right? You do this and you'll start to see exactly how to formulate, a bias on which direction you believe price is going to go. So again, because we broke the weekly low, or, we broke that weekly low, but I'm sorry, we wicked the weekly low, right? And we pushed back in. So that was showing, bullish, a bullish bias, and then we just broke the previous day high, so that's also showing a bullish bias. So I got a bunch of things telling me that price wants to rise, and all I'm looking at is this area for the target. All right, so bring it on down. Let's get to the 4-hour, right? And I'm just going to clean up, my markings. Okay, boom and bam. All right, equal highs, definitely liquidity sitting behind that, where price is going to gravitate to it. Okay, now what did I say in terms of when we think price is going to go higher? It's typically going to fall first. So mapping out my fair value gap that I see here. All right, and let's get this to the end of the week. All right, boom, that'll do it. Okay, so now I'll be looking for price to retrace right into this area. All right, and I'll be looking for it to go and take out those equal highs, right? That is 657 pips or points, right, to the upside on NAS, right, guys? You can really get paid. That's almost 1,000, right? 400 away, and you never know, it could just keep rising. Y'all know how manipulative, right, the market is in terms of making everything seem like it's okay with the economy. Even though we know that it's not, right? But the S SPY keeps pushing up, NAS, everything keeps pushing up. So it gives the illusion that we're doing good, even though we're not. That bubble is on the way. So, just keep that in mind. But for now, we need to go with the flow of what price action shows. And from what it's showing me on NAS, right, is that we got a great buying opportunity on the way to take out this swing high, these equal highs, where there is liquidity. All right, so very bullish on NAS. All right, last but not least, US 30, and I guess I didn't mark this one. I'm not sure what happened. I believe I did have it marked, but nonetheless, we can do the dance once again. All right, so I'll go to my weekly. All right, and let's try to get things mapped out. There is my low. Okay, and there is my high. Oh, not that one. All right, I'm gonna go down to the daily. All right, and map out that. And that. Okay, gonna tighten this up. Okay, so going back to the weekly really quick, I just want to show you guys, okay, that as we look at this weekly, we got an inside candle here, meaning we didn't take out the high or the low of, you know, last week, right? From this week's candle. So it's hard to tell, you know, what price is going to do, but the way I look at it is that price, this is looks like a bear candle. Let me see the open and then the close. So 48482, and then the close is 48137. This is definitely a bearish candle. So that means we open, we went high, we went low, and then we closed, right? So because we closed bearish and we closed, you know, well, because this is a bearish candle and it's an inside candle, meaning we didn't take out the high or the low, we can potentially push to the low before going higher, right? And again, this is where you need to take in market structure into consideration. All right, so now going to the daily, what you'll see is on that previous daily candle, we swept the low of the daily candle, right? So we closed back in and we closed as a bullish candle. All right, I can tell because I'm looking at the open is 47, but I'm looking at the close is 48. All right, so this is definitely a bullish candle. So you can see from this push up, and then we had this retracement down, we found our floor, right? And now we started to get a swing to where we swept liquidity and we closed higher. So this is also giving more bullish vibes on US 30, even just with the market structure alone. Run, pullback, run, pullback, run, pullback. Next thing is the run, more than likely going to take out this daily high, right? And then that weekly high. So this obviously will get got first. So if you're looking for that buying opportunity, right, as we go, let's say to the 2-hour time frame, right, we're looking for price to push down first and then push up to take out that daily level. All right, so this is exactly the same as SPY and NAS, to where we have a nice fair value gap that was created, okay, and that is currently a part of, okay, to where, right, we want to see if we can position ourselves right off of that fair value gap. Okay, looking at here is a perfect sweep of that daily low, right? And just getting above, creating that imbalance, we'll probably push down a little bit. You know, it can get probably within this little gappy area here as well. But ultimately, guys, you want to look for some sort of buying position, okay? Getting below that and aiming, like I mentioned, for this area, right? That's 320 pips. Points, sorry, or that high, and that's what I'll be aiming for, because the dollar is going to turn bearish. All right, so with that, the indices typically rise. All right, so I'm looking for maybe a potential sweep, maybe, right? Because it'll be a sweep of this low now. That'll be your Friday's low, right? We may get that, and then we'll get the push up, because again, the dollar's going to be bullish first, which is going to cause US 30 to drop, right? So with that, you know, maybe this is the better position, right? Something more like this, all right? But again, it's not just, you know, trying to take it when it's here. It's waiting to make sure that it's showing you rejection of sellers, and then finally giving you some sort of strong bullish candle. That's when you want to take it. And you're looking at potentially 1,000 points on US 30. Ladies and gentlemen, get ready for the roller coaster. And remember that your boy told you first, and I got you paid right in time for the holidays. All right, so that'll do it for this week, guys. Really hope you guys you know, take advantage, right? Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Tell your auntie, uncles, cousins, friends, all of them to get on in, because you guys found somebody who can break this down to you to where it makes sense, right? And you can truly understand how to take advantage. All right, but yeah, meantime, in between time, y'all know what it is. It's your boy. Peace.
Want to get money? Want to get paid? That's master Forex, like a sensei, then you know you gotta come and swing my way. And if you wanna fast forward, hit replay.